So welcome. Today I'm going to speak about the last three stages of the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. And that is the road back, the anointment, and also the return. So I'll see you after these messages. Stay blessed. So welcome back. My name's Sage. I'm from Karnak Holistics, where we learn together and we grow together in the sight of God. So as I said today, I'm going to speak about the road back, the anointment, and also the return. And these are the last few stages, so that's 10, 11, and 12 that I will be speaking about today. But what I wanted to just reflect upon is the stages or what has been happening with me along my research and my growth within these recording of these videos or these series of 12 videos. Well, probably about 10 videos I've done based around the hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. And for me, it's been an eye-opener. And for me, I've been dealing with this journey and making it reflect within myself and realize that just having this theory or this idea there is also the other part of it, which is you having that commitment to follow it through. And in order to follow it through and to look at the stages and developing the stages and then following the stages on to the next level, but really understanding who and what you're about, that is the key to the success of you being quite successful through this journey along the hero's journey. Because I think you just learning about it and not putting things into play is going to just come into conflict about what the journey is really about and how I should say it could really benefit you. I mean, for me, over a period of time, I've had a few people passing over to the spirit world who's quite close to me. I've had also people, my own challenges within my working environment, also my family environment that I needed to really look at. And I honestly believe that a lot of the reflection and how I look at that is based upon some of the studies I've been doing, looking at this journey, obviously the hero's journey, and how they relate to me and how I relate to them, and how, most importantly, how I reflect to myself. And I've noticed over the last, let's say, 2 months I've been researching this and recording this, is that within my own business, I've seen certain people change. I've seen my approach to how I work shift. I've also seen how I myself have that, I thought, a more deeper understanding of how I approach my particular people I work with, and also the belief within myself when I'm working with these people. So for me, my journey has been quite eye-opening, and I honestly believe spiritually it's opened me a lot. Okay, I should say opened me up a lot, but it's made my connection with spirit a lot stronger. But which has caused an element of doubt, because sometimes obviously as we're growing, we turn around and say, is this really true? And we need to really find the meat on the bone in order to believe what we're seeing and feeling is true. And some of the things I've heard and seen from spirit has been really eye-opening and really amazing. And over that period of time, I've seen certain things happen, not all just yet, but they are coming to fruition. Things where I felt was quite quiet or I could not know has actually come to pass. And there's just been one-liners from the collective just about my life or about people in my life, and about also what's coming up and what's happening. And a part of that is learning and working with different, for example, with the YouTube channel, how I could develop a YouTube channel, and they kind of brought in a new camera for me, which I'll be using on some of my other work that I'll be doing. The other thing is, which has opened up for me while doing this journey, is that I've tapped into committing myself to now do an Ascension tarot course for people on Skillshare, which I'll be doing early next year. Just almost finishing it. I'm just putting the final touches to it because it's an Ascension course and it's a balance. And all this I feel wouldn't have come about if I didn't do this journey. And I felt it's opened me up and made me realize that there's certain aspects of my life which I've seen and have evidence of, I'm evidencing is really quite fundamentally important about my journey. So moving on, what I'm going to talk about now is obviously, which I mentioned, which is the roads back and the atonement and the return. So let me start first with the road back, which is number 10 on Hero's Journey. Now, we are at this point, you've got the ordinary world and you've got the spiritual world, and of course in a threshold. So the threshold is that you're making that transition from the ordinary world, which is that you see everybody sees you, what you're transmitting to people, to the spiritual world where you're going inside yourself and reflecting and working with your mentor, working with spirit in order to see when you come back to be somebody quite different. So at this point, you're on your road back. Now you're moving back from the spirit world into the ordinary world, and this is why it's called the road back. And within this journey, you are in a places where you're reflecting about how and what you're doing and where you're going and what you've seen, felt, and absorbed within that time. There is no challenge, there's no caves, there's none of that. This is about a state of reflection. And because the next bit, when we're moving on, I'll explain why I've just said what I said in the next segment. It's about you turning around and you've recognized certain things about yourself and also people around you, and hoping that when you've done it right and you've done it, the hero's journey correctly, and you're being quite open about it to yourself, that you will be able to recognize certain things that are happening along your journey. And for me, along my journey, I realized I've got a massive issue with my weight, and I know I need to really pull that in, and I'm owning that. But the journey is a sticky one for me, but it's something I'm working on, which I'm not afraid to talk or share with anybody. It is what it is. So everyone is going through this situation. Obviously, there's lockdown, and that's just not an excuse. But I'm making massive changes for myself in order to make those things happen. And I realize certain things and certain people are just not being the way I thought it would be. So if I move on, on your road back, for me, from the spirit world, I've been in the spirit world meditating, thinking on it, trying to find answers to defeat these inner demons about myself. And it could be weight, it could be people you connect with, relationships, family, friends, work, all these things. Your journey is a journey in your life. So all these things will come up, and you're really looking at what is really happening for you. So when now, as you're returning back to the normal world, and you're coming back with what you've learned and what you're absorbed from all the things you've learned from your mentor, your trials, and crossing the threshold, and all those things, it is taking you to the next level, and for you to be kind of open and congruent about who you are. So moving on to atonement. So now atonement is looking at, for example, your father figure. There's this, and again, you've moved into the ordinary world. So you're recognizing, for example, these people represent certain people in your life. Let's say you've had an argument, you always argue with your father or your dad or someone in authority. Who does that person represent for you? Who in this situation? So coming from a Freud point of view or your psychodynamic point of view, who does that person or that situation represent from the past? So for example, if you don't like authority, where did that come from? Is it something that you've always been you've been controlled in your past, or you didn't have enough control in your past, or you are quite dominant in your past or even now, and then these people coming in who are you could be quite dominant, and then these energies that are coming into your world that you're always in conflict with could be for the fact that they were just representatives representatives and reflections of you, but also they are representative of you because you are, like, for example, could be you're like your father, who was really opinionative and really quite controlling and almost like a narcissist. So in that sense, what do you do when you're in an ordinary world? What you would have learned in your journey back there, when you're doing your hero's journey, you would have seen those things come into contact with your mentor. And if you really pulled it in, you would recognize these people, not just you recognize them as you would have already known. The other key thing is to say, okay, well, I recognize that in that person and who they represent, for example, and then what you should have had some kind of skill or some kind of gift that you've achieved over your hero's journey up to this point, which is number 11, which is the atonement, to look at and go, okay, well, that person represents my dad. So I'm not going to take on board everything this person says because they are too opinionative and they don't really have all the facts, so just make assumptions and then try and control. And there could be an element of as well is that they may represent your dad, so you are taking it on board. You listen to what they have to say, but because you've got more fresh eyes, you're going to look at it differently. And they say, psychology says that sometimes when we go on a long journey, we look for people that we are comfortable with or what we are comfortable from what we've had in the past, something that is recognized for us internally. So, for example, if, for example, you, when you're growing up, you had lots of that favorite aunt that was always nice to you, that always took you out, and she was loving and caring and so on and so forth. And then as you're going on, you want to replicate that because the aunt's passed over, and then you want to replicate that love that is not no longer there, though your mum and your dad there, but this aunt gave you something different, made you feel more worthy. So for you, you will be going, okay, well, this aunt is giving me the love that I need. And you may find that person through a teacher at school or at college, or it could be somebody that you meet in a relationship point of view. It could be a good friend of yours. And this is what we look for. And it's down for you as you've been along the hero's journey to recognize that and then say, okay, well, this is what I need from that person. Do I need it? Is it infringing on my development, about me growing? Or is it do I need to take that on board because I don't have that in my life, and I want to work with other people and replicate that to help other people. So, for example, if you've worked in an office and you want to get into care, you want to support people in a care system, it may be for the fact that you take on board those aesthetics and those characteristics of these people, and when you get into the caring community, that you replicate it within that because that's what you're comfortable with. We only look for things that we are comfortable with, and it can come through it's through a learned experience. It could be, as I said, family members and also people that we've learned at school and as we was growing up. So that's attunement. That's how we grow, and we try to, in some ways, we kind of want to rebel back and say, no, this is not what I'm about. But look at what and how it's, before you make massive judgments or make massive mistakes, you know what, take time out, think about it, feel it, take it into your heart chakra and go, okay, this person, I've been through this journey and these people are coming up to me, look at it differently. You should be in that stage where instead of you making that first fire attack or response, you should be able to go, okay, let me just hold on for 2 minutes. Let me reflect on it. And I noticed with me, I've been going, I'm not going to go in and gang ho, guns blazing. I kind of sit in peace and I wait and I look for the answers that God and my collective will give me. So the next and final one, which is kind of sad for me, is the return. Now, the return is where you've gone back to your self, and you've got Excalibur, for example, like King Arthur. So you've got the sword and you are returning back to defeat the dragon, to slay overthrow the demonic possession, or overthrow the people that are taking over the castle, so to speak. And it's when you then return back and it's very similar to the atonement, is where you are conscious, you have a conscious awareness of what your life is now about. And you by now would have changed, and you would be, instead of, as I said, reacting, you'd be proactive and non-reactive to that situation, and you'll be resting and thinking about how you can best approach it. And in that sense, is that as these things change, and as you realize that you are on this journey and you've returned, that you will be in a different place, and you're going to get people saying to you, there's something about you've changed. There's something about you, you're not as you used to be. And it's almost like when you fast as well. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was fasting, and he was getting that as you go through those sacrifices, you go into such a low pit in your life, because you're not going without food, you're constantly thinking about food. Then you reflect on other aspects of your life that is almost like a addiction. And so what he was saying to me is that as he was in that state, he was going, okay, I need to unravel this and unpick it. And that's what I believe fasting is about as well. And this is a form of fasting. This is spiritual, mental, and in a way physical fasting, and about you looking, it's all about learning about how to reflect, then to just go in there, shooting and making all these mistakes in that sense. The other thing I want to say about your road back and the return, is when you get there, don't be afraid to be who you are, because you are going to be different. You won't be the same person because you've been through too much already. And I think if you're not aware of that, that's going to be your challenge. And I always think of this because I've seen a lot of things about Lady Diana recently. And for example, if I was to look at her life, when she went through as a teenager, married to Charles and all the things she went through, let's just take away all the drama around it and what she'd been through. But let's look at what she'd been through, not so much what she did. Let's look at what she'd been through, the control, the lack of support, the loneliness, and all these stages, finding a mentor, turning to people, finding different support or loves to give her the need. Then there's the negative side from that, which is obviously the bulimia, the depression, the anxieties, all those stuff. And all that is the trials. So when you look at also this journey that she was on, she obviously went very spiritual. Her mentors was almost her children, because they were her anchor. And you can see how she changed. And there's pictures of her with, I believe she's got either a pin in their ear, is where she used acupuncture. And there's certain things, I know she was really quite spiritual and she consulted a lot in the occult side. But through that, she found power and strength. And and if I can remember what she said at one point, she said that I'm not going to go, they don't like me because I won't go down without a fight. And I think she knows, I think many people in her environment will just buckle over. But she knows she had a lot more on her side, because she had William, who's the future king. There was a spare, which was Harry. And also she was married to Charles. And then she knew too much. And she was also, biggest of all, she was really popular with the public. And again, it's not about what's wrong or right, what was going on here. It was for the fact that you got to look at her journey. And she's a living embodiment, I believe, of the journey, of the hero's journey, because she did become strong towards the end before she died. And it would have been, I believe, amazing things. Though she'd done amazing things if she was alive, she would have done more amazing things that would be outside of what she would have done within the royal family. So, and again, looking at that and looking at ordinary Joe, ordinary person, they would have gone through the same similar thing, because if you're being bullied or in some form of control, you will have the same things, the anxieties, the depression, the withdrawal symptoms, the rebellion against social interaction. You don't want to socially interact. and it's almost kind of you want to turn inwardly and self hurt, not physically, but self hurt yourself and make yourself feel low, and then i.e. can come out as addiction, drugs, drink, whatever. Sex is, there's other ways that we call upon. I believe, like, when you put something into a lot of motion into a like a box or into like a jar, it will overspill, and the overspill sometimes is not being contained. Not contained in a bad way. It's to learn to manage it in that sense. And I believe that sometimes we just need time out. And when we get that time out to just sit down and reflect and be in peace and be in that scenario, we will find where what we are and what we're doing. And I was speaking to someone the other day, and we were talking about videos and doing YouTube, and like with my return, one of the big things I was aware of is how I looked or how I come across on YouTube and what I'm about and what I say. And a lot of people said, oh, I should be more structured, i.e. If I'm talking about a particular subject, I should stay and just talk about, I don't know, because I do a lot of employment work. And so they said, oh, you should be saying employment, coaching and so on. And I just think that's sort of bullshit. So for me, as I said, everything I say, I talk from my heart. That's the only place I can come from, and the only thing I've seen and I've dealt with. And so for me, when I'm talking about, I may be talking about a coaching technique 1 minute, and then I may talk about something spiritual another. They may talk about your chakra. They all are part of what we are about, what makes us. And so when I talk, I come from a global effect, or I'm not limited into that jar. That's fine if you want to be that way. I don't really care, but it's just not who I am. And if people don't like it, then that's their problem. But and because of this journey, I've been able to turn around and be able to own that for myself. So, and again, what I want to say is that with the return, you are, once you've arrived there and you've got Excalibur, for example, in like as King Arthur, and you've returned back to Camelot, or you return back to your life because you've been on this journey and you realize you got your treasure, you got your weapon, if you want to call it, or your protection, and you are ready to take on the world in that sense, or take on people. Trust in yourself, trust in what you've learned, what your journey was about, because you was on that journey for a reason. So that's the end of this 12th stage hero's journey by Joseph Campbell. You know what? I so love this, and this was the first time I've done a serial of videos, and I'm gonna keep doing them. As I said, I'm writing a tarot course at the moment. I'm in the process of doing that for Skillshare. But at the moment, all the videos I'm doing, I think I'm gonna start delving a bit more, and you're gonna find that I'm gonna do a series of stuff, especially now I've taken on board for myself and through being, my name's being Sage, and being a witch, is now writing about books, my spiritual books, and my magic books, and also writing about some spells I do, obviously for the positiveness, and also how I work with people to help people overcome stuff and come into line with themselves as well. And then talking about your chakras and how you're dealing with your chakras and how to deal with the law of attraction, using the universe and using the moon and the sun in order to help benefit you, and how you're triggered by these elemental elements. Also the elements, don't forget about that: earth, water, air and fire. So they're the three important things. I want to really do a video on those, but I want to really drill down into each one. Not sure how the collective want me to present this yet, but look out for that. So I hope you're well, I hope you're staying safe, and I'll see you on the next video. Stay blessed, stay safe, namaste.